Welcome to Wings on Katella, episode 12. We got a dozen of these at this point. We are Wings on Katella. We all work for the Sporting Tribune. I'm going to just go left corner around. We cover Anaheim sports, the Anaheim Ducks, the Los Angeles Angels, starting with Zach Kavanaugh, Mr. Anaheim Ducks reporter for the Sporting Tribune himself. Zach, I told you that I was going to make fun of you when we started doing the pregame thing. On my flight back home from Scotland to the United States, everyone to my left, I had an aisle seat, like 4 rows deep, they were all watching Anora.
Wonderful.
Did you watch Anora with your girlfriend?
Yeah,
Yeah, seeing it on a plane with 4 rows deep of that was a very awkward.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a plane movie, but, it
shouldn't have been.
Go off.
I'll tell you that, it shouldn't have been.
Yeah. It's like, I remember when, at the height of Game of Thrones, people would be watching Game of Thrones on the plane, and I'm like, also not really a plane viewing experience, but, you do you.
Yeah, the poor girl that was sitting like here, like the aisle seat you can see through kind of thing. She was watching it, and I would just watch her. She every like 30 seconds, she'd just skip.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can censor that what I just said, but still. Zach, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing all right, man. Busy week for me in the old content mines, but we're happy. We're happy to be doing this instead than. We're not accountants, but that's what makes this fun.
No. You can follow Zach on Twitter at ZachCav, ZACHCAV. Jack Janes, you're up on my right-hand corner, so I'm going to go to you next. How are you doing, pal? You're back from Mexico.
Yeah, I took a week-long cruise where I had, no service, and the Angels decided to call up Christian Moore. Ron Washington went down, benches cleared, Rafael Devers gets traded, so... Hell of a week to not have service on my phone, but good to be back. I am tired, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, good to have you back. You guys can follow Jack Janes on social media at Jack. My phone answered via my watch. That was interesting. Random 714 number. Good to have you back. You guys can follow Jack on social media at JackJanes_. And to my left on my computer is Mr. Thomas Murray. Tommy Lee Murray. How you doing, pal?
Good, man. Went to Vegas over the weekend. That was pretty cool.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you do the speakeasies that I told Jack to go to that he didn't go to?
You didn't tell me about any speakeasies. At least I remember about.
Jack just is very important in my own mind. So, you guys can follow Tommy Lee Murray on socials at Thomas_L_Murray. You guys can follow me on social media at Taylor Blake Ward. We are going to talk Anaheim sports, and like Jack said, there's a ton of things going on with Orange County sports.
Wait, Taylor,
so today we're going to talk about.
We forgot to ask how you're doing. How are you doing?
I'm here. I am in the midst of my intro, man. You threw off my groove. So
don't mess with the Emperor's groove.
Just wanted to check. Don't.
That is such an underrated movie. Such a great film. I remember when it came out. Loved that movie. I was a child when that movie came out. I know you guys were like not even born. So
hey, I was alive.
Other than Zach and myself. See, you threw on my groove. Not screwing around here, man. This is my life. I'm not playing games. We're gonna talk Ron Washington. We're gonna talk Trevor Zegras, and we're gonna talk draft stuff, NHL and MLB on both ends. Very immensely unpopular trade by Pat Verbeek and the Anaheim Ducks. Trevor Zegras traded to the Philadelphia Flyers, who I called the Phillies in our last podcast. Have to go and correct that. But the Philadelphia Flyers, Trevor Zegras heads to them. The Anaheim Ducks get Ryan Poehling in return, a depth forward who we'll talk about, and a second-round pick this year, fourth-round pick next year. Zach, we're going to go to you on this one. Initial thoughts on the I love the smile. initial thoughts on the Trevor Zegras trade.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it a bit. It's a trade where Trevor's been rumored to be traded 17 times over the last 3 years, right? So for it to finally happen is a little surreal, and for it to happen when it did and for what in return and the reasonings for it afterwards are all still a bit confounding to me. It makes sense why he was traded ultimately, at least with the reasons Verbeek gave of they're looking for more cohesive fits, more complementary players. He wants to play center. Verbeek even said he's better as a center, but with the growth of Leo Carlson and Mason McTavish, he's not a third line center. And if you don't want him playing the wing, if you want a better cohesive mix of forwards, he all of a sudden becomes the odd guy out. And it also kind of read between the lines sort of thing. It feels like Verbeek was never truly on board with Trevor Zegras from the start, not his type of player in the long run. But on the other hand of it, players with his skill aren't available all the time. And you have to kind of do your best to make somebody like that work. And it felt like after him doing everything asked of him over the last 2 years with Greg Cronin, trying to work on his defensive game, in my eyes, at least improving in his defensive game, dealing with all the injuries he's dealt with, for him to come into next season healthy with a new coach in Joel Quenneville, a legitimate NHL coach, in theory, a better supporting cast around him, depending on how the offseason shakes out. It felt like this was going to be a new start, an opportunity for him to truly prove what he is worth, and that was seemingly taken away. And for a lot of Ducks fans in the community, that's what's kind of stood out, is that he had this opportunity taken away from him, but people got attached to Trevor because in the dark times of the last 4 years, he was the bright spot. He was supposed to be the leader of this next generation, and it's funny that he goes to Philadelphia because most people will remember the game he scored his first goal is the same game where Jamie Drysdale scored his first goal, and there's a very iconic at the time photo of him and Jamie celebrating their goal, and they became best friends and all that sort of stuff. And it just seemed like I remember that night saying, like, those are the guys. That's going to lead us out of the darkness, is those two guys. And neither of them are there anymore. And the return, and again, Ryan Poehling is a guy that makes sense for the Ducks build, but I don't feel like he's a guy you get for Trevor Zegras. He's a guy that you could have gotten at any time. And the draft picks, the Ducks are already lousy with draft picks as it is. Like they have so many. That part is the part that doesn't make sense to me. It feels more and more that this was simply we got to get Trevor Zegras off our roster to make the moves we want to move rather than a hockey move for both sides in the end.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I think the return is actually
criminal.
I don't want to say atrocious, but atrocious. It's bad. The return was not adequate. But on that note, and I'm going to go to Jack for this. And Jack, you're a little blurred here, so can you just give me a hey, a hello?
Yeah, I'm good. I got you guys.
All right, good. You're blurred on my image right now. I'm sure it looks good on the clean version. But Jack, I think when I think of Trevor Zegras, I think of this highly creative playmaker. I think he is a top 6 forward. I don't know if he's a franchise staple kind of player. Is Trevor Zegras overvalued? I mean, I'm not going to say that this return is what the value of Trevor Zegras is, but because we're here in Southern California, because we see Trevor Zegras regularly, do you think Trevor Zegras is overvalued by the league standard and by the people that we see here, or do you think this is actually close to an adequate return? Close?
I will say, just based off how the last 2 years have gone with being injured, missing a lot of time, and having Greg Cronin as his head coach and really focusing on the defensive side of his game at the cost of sacrificing his offensive output. Yeah, like right now, the trade he got makes sense in the moment of what his trade value is, just because it's plummeted so much the last 2 years. That being said, I still believe that Trevor Zegras can still be a 70, maybe an 80-point player in the NHL. I mean, I don't have a NHL StatHead subscription, so I couldn't look this up. But how many guys have the Ducks had that put up back-to-back 60-point seasons in their 20 and 21 age seasons? That doesn't seem like something the Ducks have quite often. Trevor Zegras doesn't grow on trees. And I agree to pretty much everything that Zach said about the trade itself. And, he's just not a Verbeek guy. He was never a Verbeek guy. If Pat Verbeek was the general manager of the Ducks when Trevor Zegras was ready for the draft, Verbeek wouldn't have touched him with a 10-foot pole. It's a shame because, Trevor Zegras is obviously one of the most electrifying players to watch. I could be crazy for saying this, but I don't think I've seen a Ducks player with as much raw skill since Teemu Selanne retired in 2014. Am I wrong for saying that?
I don't think so, because
I'm trying to think off I'm trying to go deep root on this.
I'm not saying total package best player.
Yeah.
I'm just saying raw skill, raw ability. It's hard to think of someone with more skill than Zegras since Selanne retired.
The skill and creativity is unmatched by most players.
He's playing pawn hockey in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Thomas, I think of Ryan Poehling, and I don't want to bash this guy because we have to cover him now at this point. But Ryan Poehling, to me, seems like a guy you pick up on waiver claim. Thomas, I don't know if you have different thoughts on this trade, about this, the return, anything like that.
Well, let me kind of break down just what were my initial thoughts when I saw it happen. Like Jack being in Cabo, I was driving back from Vegas, so I didn't really have time to look at my phone, so I just got the update, and it was like, oh, Trevor Zegras got traded. I'm like, well, damn, it finally happened. I'm like, okay, well, I'm honestly not too upset when I just see the headline. I'm like, whatever, like, it's been talked about for freaking years now, right? So it finally happened. So when I get home, I'm like, all right, let me go check this out. Let me see what the trade was. And I was like, you got to be effing kidding me. This is all they got back? And I don't know. It's just, in my opinion, I feel like the Ducks got fleeced on the trade. I was, like I said, initially okay with it just because I was like, having, like Zach brought up, he's probably going to be a third line center if he actually ended up playing center this season. And I don't know it's going to happen with Chris Kreider, but they do have him listed as a center on their team roster, so that's kind of interesting.
He'll be on the wing.
He'll be on the wing.
Yeah, he'll play wing, but still.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I thought like, okay, it's fine because you got some other guys that you're going to have to pay to in the near future alongside Zegras. We've talked about on this podcast when we've kind of talked about like the Ducks free agency and who should they sign this year, and then thinking about the future because they're going to have to start paying Lido, Cutter, Mason Mack soon. So I was initially okay with it, but again, when I saw the return, I was like, yeah, this is like, I feel like they got fleeced. I feel like you could have got more for him. So I think that's kind of where I was more upset, where I'm like, you probably could have got a better haul, but I guess you wanted to reunite him with Drysdale.
You touched on something that I wanted to point out. Sorry, 1 second. You touched on something, Thomas, that I also wanted to point out. I just forgot. Oh my god, and I just lost it now. I'm still waking up. Because I was like, don't forget. He just said it. Don't forget it. Yeah, like what I said about him not being a Verbeek guy, I was fully expecting Zegras to get traded, whether this year or at the deadline coming up. I didn't think he was going to be a Duck for long as Pat Verbeek was, general manager of the Ducks. So the trade itself didn't necessarily surprise me. But like you said, once you see the return, from covering the team, I'm not like angry at like the return because, it doesn't really affect my life other than covering it. But I guess the frustrating part is just seeing how Zegras was handled by the Ducks in the sense of, he comes in, he breaks out 2 60-point seasons in his first 2 full seasons, cover the NHL video game. He's very marketable player. And then, couple injuries completely sabotage his offense to work on his defense. And, and I will give some credit to Greg Cronin and Pat Verbeek. Trevor Zegras looks like a much better defensive player now than he did when he first broke into the league. That is a fact. Although he still has his flaws, he's not a perfect player by any stretch of the imagination. He did improve defensively, so I will give them some credit for that. But just the way they handled Zegras these last, 2-3 years is really just tanked his value and just left a sour taste in a lot of Ducks fans' mouth.
Well, and to build on that too, in terms of him being a center and his rehabbing his value and everything like that, like you got to think this season there was so much talk about why is he being pushed to the wing? Why is he being pushed to the wing? And you realize that the Ducks were playing Ryan Strome at center rather than Trevor Zegras at center. And you say, well, he was a third line guy. I mean, not for most of the year. That line with Strome, Terry, and Vetrano was pretty much being used as the first line more often than not. So you're taking up potential skill spots and not allowing one of your best players to use his best attributes. And again, that's why I sort of look at why wasn't he just allowed to start the season? Because if you're looking to get more value back from him, rather than being like this strict top 6, bottom 6 delineation that is a bit old school, there is a growing trend in the NHL of having more of a top 9 forwards. And you create some sort of third scoring line with Zegras at the center of it, and you see what happens. And he either does, gangbusters and you keep him, or he does well enough that his value is back that you can trade him for somebody that fits your system better, or it doesn't work at all and you trade him for the same return that you're going to get right now. So it's a weird asset handling where truly the thing that baffles me out of all of this is why they did it right this second. Why did it have to be before the draft, before free agency? Why did it have to be before training camp, before letting Joel Quenneville actually get his hands on him and see what you could make of him rather than trading him at his absolute lowest value? Like I said at the end of my opening thing there, this feels more like we have to get Trevor out of here right now so we can free up room for something. And we'll talk about it shortly, I'm sure, but the only way this makes sense in the short, in the micro, in the right now with the assets and all that, this makes no sense. The only way this makes sense is if you pull back, take the full view of it, and something happens in the next, I guess, seven days or so between the draft, trades, free agency that fills in those gaps and makes this a more complete team. Otherwise, it's still a head scratcher, and it will be for quite some time, especially if he goes on to be productive in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I think he probably will be productive, and I just think as an organization, it's not really a smart move when you are a team that's struggling to shoot the puck and you get rid of one of your best scorers. I mean, does it tell us that, okay, they're going to go out and... Dude, I'm so bad about that.
Sorry, Zach. No, you're good. Zach, you mentioned the top 6, bottom 6. I don't understand why it's such a bad idea to have 3 really good centers. I really don't.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Brad Verbeek just looks at his center core and he's like, well, we can't have 3 of them. Like,
God, this team really sucks at scoring the puck. We should have one less option to score the puck.
That's the
part that doesn't make sense.
Like, if you know, and especially last year, like, realistically speaking, were you really making the playoffs? Like, I never believed that the Ducks were going to, even when they had that hot stretch in, what was that, January, February, I never believed that they were going to make the playoffs or make a push for it. Why not experiment with it? If you know Trevor Zegras is a better center and plays better at center, why not just roll with it and see if he sinks or swims, if he starts playing better or anything like that? I don't understand the fixation of we can only have 2 good centers and then we have our bottom 6. I just don't understand it.
The big thing here on mine, and I think we've been trying to make sense of it, and the sense of it is it doesn't make sense, right? That's what I was going to go with is say what makes sense about this. Nothing makes sense. You brought in Stanley Cup winning, outstandingly well-known coach, right? Head coach. We forgot to mention it, Jay Woodcroft has joined the Anaheim Ducks coaching staff as of this morning.
Well, will join the staff. It can't be official.
Will join the staff.
Can't be official
until
July 1st. But yeah.
Yeah, waiting until you get approval on that one, Zach. But either way, you're adding Jay Woodcroft, another high-end, a former NHL head coach. You aren't going to give him the creativity to shuffle these lines through the season when you're constantly adjusting, right? The NHL season, you constantly adjust. It's not NHL, the video game, where you go and you buy top 6 forwards and you put them all on line 1 and you don't do a damn thing with the rest of it, right? It's not a stupid video game. You shuffle, you adjust, and you just brought in a freaking guy that you believe is a genius to do that for you. I don't understand what Pat Verbeek is doing here. I don't. And I understand that. I think we can, Zach, I'm going to go to you on Trevor's comments that he made when he was with Philadelphia media, but it just seems so dumb. And I don't want to say that, but it seems so dumb to do this. And
it's okay to say it's dumb.
What's that?
It's okay to say it's dumb. It is.
Oh, well, it's dumb. It's dumb. And I hate that it's at that point, but like you mentioned it, Jack, why not have it's a good problem to have 3 good centers. It's a good problem to have 4 good centers or 5. I don't care how many you have. It's a good problem to have when you have good players. There's 18 given forward players on any given night, right? 18 skaters any given night. I want those 18 skaters to be the best in the NHL. I don't need I don't need this whole Miracle on Ice put together the right hockey team. I want the best damn hockey team. I want the Russian squad. I want the Soviets. I want an all-star team going against the Soviets, all right? I want the Ducks to have the best roster in the NHL. I want them 18 deep. I think it's stupid that they got rid of one of their best players, if not their best player.
And the thing that...
And Zach, I don't know if Trevor's comments reflect anything more on it.
Well, Trevor's comments, he was extremely professional about it, very diplomatic, kind of shifting all the focus to, hey, I'm here in Philadelphia now, I'm looking forward to this. Basically, the only thing that I took out of his comments in terms of the Ducks was him saying kind of what I said earlier, that he did everything he was told to do. He tried to be the best teammate possible at all times. He learned a lot in Anaheim, but ultimately the reasons for why he is not there anymore are with Pat Verbeek alone. And being in the room, he's obvious, you see all these talks nationally of, oh, he's a terrible teammate and he's so selfish. And it's like, that is from people that just do not interact with this team in any meaningful way. Like, Trevor is beloved in the room. He's a leader, even if you don't think so. He's obviously very skilled. And I think, as some of us that watch this team day in and day out, when he was injured, not that the team was really good at any point during the year, really, but when he was out versus when he was in, there was a marked difference in the power play. And the power play was bad all year. There's no getting around that, but it certainly looked better when he was out there because he has the vision and the creativity to be able to find lanes and make passes that other guys don't. Out of all the comments that came out of Philadelphia, the thing that stood out to me is what Danny Briere said in terms of making this trade, the GM of the Flyers, that players like his skill don't come available often. And that's completely true. And in my mind, at least, players like Ryan Poehling, who he's big, he's fast, he's strong, he's a good penalty killer, he's more deceptively skilled than maybe his numbers show. I will give you all that. You can get Ryan Poehlings in a lot of places for less than a Trevor Zegras. Even if his production is low, the skill level of a Trevor Zegras isn't found everywhere. And we talk, and just to build off one more thing you said, Trevor or Taylor, about building the right team and the Miracle on Ice comparisons, things like that. I think what is kind of evident in Pat Verbeek's moves right now is that he has been given a mandate by ownership to make the playoffs for whatever means necessary. And that has turned it out of this is a long-term project to, we got to get some impact in here right now and get some veterans in here right now and make these moves right now. And what that is turned into is he's trying to get guys that play right for the playoffs. you got to make the playoffs first before you worry about being a good playoff team. You have to be a good regular season team to get to the playoffs. And I think right now, the Ducks are a worse team than they were on Sunday evening, than they were on Monday morning. Now, again, what happens with the draft? The number 10 pick is supposedly in play for trades. They have 10 picks to trade if they want to make a move. Obviously, free agency, they have the most cap space in the world.
Wait.
I don't know. Hold on. I'm just saying that.
Wait.
I know. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just that there has to be moves to fill in all those gaps to make this team better. And if even if Pat Verbeek takes his swings and they miss like they did last season with Stamkos and Marchessault and whatever, that's not good enough. Because at this point, with this trade, Pat Verbeek has put the onus on himself. Like, you want to do this, you better do it. You want to make these moves, you want to do this, you have to capitalize. And if you don't, that'll be the end of your job probably.
Yeah.
Push all your chips in.
Yeah, Zach brought up...
Real quick, and Zach mentioned something. This was my initial thought. And I'll go to you, Jack, but he said something that I said last week, is this is a team on such a high upward trajectory. This was a massive step backwards. And that's not a place you want to be. And just to add real quick, Florida Panthers just won the Stanley Cup. Not sure if you guys are aware or not. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers. That team, their third line center, probably front lines a lot of other teams. So I think building the talent. And also the second line center for the team that lost the Stanley Cup, probably a fourth line center on most teams. So on that note, Jack, I apologize. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, Zach actually brought up one of the points I was going to make about, I'm not going to go into it, Taylor, but bringing up, draft, trade.
We have a script.
Yeah, bringing up draft, trades, free agents. What if you whiff? Now what? If you don't get the guys you want, now what?
Yep.
You just lost one of your best playmakers, and you didn't bring anybody back in. Now what? Now that's all I'm going to say. I'll save the rest for later. Don't worry, Taylor. But the other two things that Zach brought up that I wanted to kind of go deeper on. One of them was the comments that Zegras made in his media availability. I loved his response to Eric Stevens' question, where Eric Stevens asked, "Where did it all go wrong?" And he just said, "Ask Pat." I felt like I was the best teammate I could have been. I did everything I was asked for, and it didn't work out. You can ask him. He didn't say it in that tone, but it would have been a lot better if he had said it in that tone, because that would have been funnier. But
it was remarkable how un-Trevor Zegras that press availability was.
It was. I was impressed
subdued.
Yeah, I was very impressed with how not professional, but just how non-problematic it was. He didn't say anything that was like bad. But the last point that I'll bring up, you mentioned the power play, Zach. I had a tweet from back in January. Before Trevor Zegras tore his meniscus, he was the main man in the Ducks power play that was on an 11 for 54 streak. That's 20.4% run. I actually said streak. Since Zegras' injury, Ducks power play is 4 for 45, 8.8%. And then it's a picture of the shot maps with and without Zegras, and this is going to be hard because, technology, but this is him with. You can see the dark spots are a lot bigger. That's a lot of shot volume. And then without, no dark spots. So the power play is just so much more dynamic with Trevor Zegras on it. And it's a power play that was already the worst in the NHL this year. And now you just lost one of your best power play players.
And you just hired a better power play coach that he's not going to play with.
Yeah. Yep. You did just hire a really good power play coach, Jay Woodcroft. So, yeah.
It continues to not make sense the more you talk about it.
Yeah.
Last thought on this for now, because we're going to move on to Angel stuff. Jay Woodcroft was not aware he was a child actor. I have seen one of the movies he was in. At the dismay of my Canadian friends, he was in a movie called Separate Vacations. He was 10 years old at the time, and that movie is not meant for 10-year-olds. He was also in a movie called The Littlest Hobo, which I have not seen.
Oh, I've heard about The Littlest Hobo thanks to the Merrick vs. Wyshynski podcast days.
Have not seen it, but Jay Woodcroft is in both of
The
those.
Littlest Hobo, by the way, is a dog, not a person.
Yes.
So I learned that.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying, because I didn't.
Canadian media is a weird place, man.
It's very interesting. Separate Vacations is also a very Canadian film. So, Anaheim, man, every freaking show. The Los Angeles Angels recently swept the Boston Red Sox to go back to 500. They had an immensely busy week this week. I don't even know where to start. First off, we have their top prospect, first rounder from last year, making his home series debut, has been outstanding. Jack, you saw it. Zach, you saw it. Thomas, I think you saw it. Pretty impressive homestand.
Debut.
First homestand for Christian Moore. Also, Ron Washington out indefinitely. So we're going to see about that. Also, they're 500, and the midway point of the season is tomorrow. So,
gold star.
Open floor, guys. Open platform. Zach, you were there on Friday.
I was there.
Let's start with you. Ron Washington out indefinitely. The initial mood around the stadium.
It was odd because they had just come back from New York. You know, the late night from the East Coast 4-game swing, and the media, get in the locker room. It's all kind of quiet in there as it was. I'm sure you guys know, pregame availability is not exactly lively sometimes. We were only in there for like 10 minutes. Nobody was really around, and then we were told, "Hey, there's going to be a players meeting. We're going to kick you guys out." And we're like, "All right." Then I go up to the dugout, and not even 5 minutes after that, Perry Manassian walks up the steps, and as my first time going to Angel Stadium to cover a game this season, I said, "That's a little unusual, isn't it?" And when he opens with, "Hey, we got to start off the record," I was like, "Oh." And then once we got to the on the record portion, yeah, Ron Washington out for health concerns. From what I was hearing around, he was a little fatigued, a little short of breath. He had some tests done. As far as I knew then, that there wasn't any conclusive results, but what they're doing is just kind of taking him a step back. He was obviously at the game. If anybody watched the TV broadcast, while they were talking about his health issues, he was just munching on some chicken wings, which, you know, great for your health if that's your concern. But he's supposedly still around the team. He's still talking to guys. He was on the field during warm-ups when I was there. He's just not being involved in the stressful managerial portion of the job. So what that means for like how his impact with the team is, I actually don't know. You guys might know or be able to dig into it a little bit further once you're there more. But it was certainly odd. But Ray Montgomery seems like he's been very capable in this first week and done the job quite well. Spoke to us quite well on the day of, and they were surprised by it, obviously, but not unprepared. And it does help that Wash is around. So it was an interesting mood. And I think something I took out of it was when I talked to the other Taylor Ward at the game. We talked to him before the game, and he said sort of this is something that could bring us together even closer if it's sort of a rally for Wash situation. And I don't know if that's what's spurred them here in this homestand or not, but it seems to be working out pretty well for the time being.
Well, just to go on this, we do not know what the health concern is. That has not been mentioned by the Angels. We don't know about it.
Nothing official said, yeah, but that's just what I was hearing.
I will say, on Tuesday, Ray Montgomery was asked about it again, and he said we're still waiting back on test. So that's last I've heard about it.
I'm sure there will be an announcement at some point. Either Ron is back and nothing happened, or whatever it is.
They were all pretty confident, by the way, that he would be back sooner than later. It doesn't sound like it was a weird tone because they were all concerned, obviously, and some of them a bit emotional about it, but they were also confident that he would be back soon, so it's serious but treatable, or maybe he just needs rest. It's entirely unclear based on what we've seen. So hopefully he's back soon, because Wash is obviously liked by everybody. So this isn't even you want him back for the sake of the team. It's you like the guy a lot. So
yeah, and it's well wishes to Ron from all of us, obviously. Respectfully, Ron is 73 years old, and health-wise, for those that have known him, and Thomas, you and I were talking about this last night. Those that have known him, he's an obviously healthy human being who's been an athletic human being, but he also hasn't. He's made some decisions that are unhealthy decisions, same as a lot of other people. So the fact that he's 73, he's been at this for so long, it's something that has occurred. Now, Jack, Thomas, you guys were at the stadium over the week, early part of the week. I'll be there on the weekend with Thomas. Ron was around, right? I think he missed one game, something like that.
I know he missed Tuesday. I think Ray Montgomery told us that yesterday. I haven't seen him, though.
Okay.
Yeah, Ray said if he is going to the games, he shows up like right before game time and sits in the suite. So
that's good. That's good.
I do have like one little update. On Monday, Ray Montgomery did tell us that Ron is helping him with everything else, just everything that goes on in the game. That's all Ray Montgomery's decision, but like making the lineup, all those calls, Ron is still involved in all of those.
Okay. I was going to ask you guys about this. Obviously, we like Ray too. Ray's a nice guy. I like Ray. He's a nice guy.
He's really nice.
Good vocally, good, everything, good representative. To me, puppet-like for front office. This seems very modern day manager, someone that the front office is making the decisions on, as opposed to what Ron or Ray would be making decisions on. I don't know if you guys agree or not. I mean, so far it's worked, but
I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that too in depth. I was just thinking of how mad Tyler Anderson was coming out of the game in the fifth inning with only 82 pitches, but it worked, so you can't be too mad at that.
And then he goes and allows Yusei Kikuchi to throw 106 the next day. Yeah, next day. I'm trying to think of where we're going to go with this.
Well, just one last point. The reason that Wash probably isn't managing the games either. I thought a funny note from Perry on that Friday was that he noted that the Angels obviously play very stressful games. It's not usually a blowout. It is not for the faint of heart to be managing the Los Angeles Angels at this point. So
that's a terrible comment.
Right. Probably not for the best for Ron to be behind the bench, if that's or in the dugout, I should say, if that's the case.
That's fair. I'm gonna go to both Jack and Thomas on two fronts. I want to touch on Christian Moore. Before we do that, I want to touch about Yusei Kikuchi. But important note I wanted to bring out, I have it here in my notebook, is Angels sweep the Red Sox. They're back to 500. We mentioned that. Something about the Red Sox. Did you guys watch the Netflix documentary on the Red Sox at all?
I've watched 3 or 4 episodes. I kind of couldn't finish it. It's kind of boring. I'm not going to lie.
Well, they did run out of budget the second half of the season. I did not watch that Red Sox documentary. I watched the other Netflix documentary they did on the 2004 season.
That one was great.
That one was good.
Zach, did you watch the Red Sox documentary at all on Netflix?
I would not voluntarily subject myself to the Boston Red Sox. So
no. All right, fair enough. So there is a part of that series where Jarren Duran opens up very heavily about his mental struggles to a point of a suicide attempt that did not go. Obviously, it didn't go happen because he was playing this weekend. The mental state of baseball players these days is it's scary. And I think Jarren Duran opening up about his mental struggles on Netflix, obviously it's a little bit of a private place, a little bit to a degree, because people have to pay subscription, etc. But I think it was very very strong of him. And I want to give Jarren Duran an attaboy for opening up and being a voice for those that do deal with suicidal thoughts, especially when you are someone that is in the position he's in, of being a professional athlete. And people that think everything is going great, you're making millions of dollars. No, life can be a struggle. Also, on that note, this week, Ketel Marte of the Arizona Diamondbacks had a fan heckle him about his mother's death. That guy can go pound sand. I hope he never sets foot in another MLB stadium. I hope he rots in hell, and that's the way I'm going to stand by that. If you are saying things to these players about their mental health or their personal family, you have something that is dementally wrong with you. And that's the only note I want to make about that. On that note, well, not even close to that note. Jack, you wrote about Yusei Kikuchi dropping his arm slot a little bit. Thomas, you wrote about Yusei Kikuchi's outing yesterday. You guys kind of branch off of each other on this. Yusei Kikuchi, surprisingly, has the 7th best ERA in the American League.
Yeah, he's got a 2.79 ERA despite a 3.90 FIP and a 1.366 WHIP. He allows a lot of traffic at the base pass. His walk rates are almost at a career high, which oddly enough, which I noted in my article, he's in the strike zone he's in the strike zone the most in his career this year, but his walk rate's second highest in his career this year. And when I asked him about it, he said he just thinks he's being too fine with his pitches. He's not getting chases out of the zone. And he has got one of the lowest chase rates in his career. I believe it is the lowest. So it's just an odd year for Yusei Kikuchi. I know, especially for baseball reference, WAR isn't the best stat to use for pitchers, but it is interesting to note that his 2.9, his 2.9 WAR this season is the highest of his career. And he's only 17 starts into it when he's got three seasons of 32 starts. So he's off to, he was off to a rough start in his first 4 starts, a lot of traffic, a lot of walks, they were scoring, but then he's really kind of settled in. He's still allowing traffic on the base pass, but now he's not letting them score, which I don't know how sustainable that is, but in his last couple starts, you saw it, yesterday, 12 strikeouts. How many walks did he have yesterday? Was it 0? 1?
He had one walk.
One walk
yesterday.
So he's on a stretch of, I think, 3 of his last 4 starts. Yeah, 3 of his last 4 starts where he's got 1 walk or less. So if he can keep that up, I think the 2.79 ERA, or just a low ERA in general, it will be way more sustainable.
Something, and Thomas, I'm cutting you off, I know. Something, and this is something I told you about, Thomas. This was a note I came up with yesterday. Yusei Kikuchi this season, the first inning, he has a 5.82 ERA, 7.41 runs allowed per 9, and a 9.16 OPS against. After the first inning, he has a 2.15 ERA, 2.6 runs against per 9, and a 6.45 OPS against. You're dropping that OPS by 300 points, essentially, after the first inning. Thomas, I know you talked to him a little bit about this, but getting Yusei out of the first, he's like the best pitcher in baseball. He's Paul Skeens in second inning onward, right?
Yeah, I tried asking him a little bit about it, just, struggles like with the first inning versus after this whole season, but I think he just took it more as the game in terms of yesterday's game itself. And he basically was just kind of telling me in this quote, though, is just that he's not really like focused too much on the first inning, if things happen, it is what it is, basically. His goal is that he's just trying to go deep into games, pitch 5, 6, 7 innings, and just give the team the best opportunity to win.
That was kind of his reaction when I saw him on Friday too, because that was the game where give up the back-to-back home runs to lead off the game, and I tweeted out a couple stats, and I was real proud of myself for finding these stats, and look at this. Yusei Kikuchi, third best home ERA in the AL. Wow, he's starting at home today. Oh, but not really good against the Houston Astros. We'll see what wins out today. And then 2 home runs on the first 10 pitches, and I said, "Oh Jesus, what did I do? What did I jinx this poor man?" And then of course he settles completely down, strikes out.
We lose Zach.
The baseball gods aren't kind, and they cut him out.
If that's the frozen screenshot we have of Zach the rest of the podcast, that is a shot. Zach, you there? I think we got you. There you are.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah. Oh, it's frozen a couple times. Luckily, when I've not been talking, so that was the bad timing.
Zach, I just want to give you had this as your look. That was your
Perfect.
look. So I hope that's the frozen look we get.
Perfect.
It was real Jack Torrance in The Shining.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gave up the 2 back-to-back home runs, struck out 9 the rest of the way in 7 innings. And ultimately, he was a little disappointed when we got to talk to him. Very, very short answers from him because they ultimately lost the game. But he recovered extremely well. The fastball was working well. He got, I think, all 9 strikeouts that night were swinging strikeouts too. So he's shown the ability to recover after a rough opener, and as you said, stronger throughout the game. And third best ERA and home ERA in the AL. So that's something.
There you go. Just looking his last 3 starts, 18.0 flat on the dot, swinging strike percentage. That is pretty elite. He is missing bats at a high clip. I think it's just interesting. Yusei Kikuchi was brought in to be the frontline man of this rotation, and I don't know if anyone bought it. I don't know if anyone sat there and said, yeah, the Yusei Kikuchi is the answer for the front of the rotation. So far, he has been. So, impressive get, at least at the start of the contract for Perry Manassi and the Angels. Now, everyone this weekend got to at least get a pretty special glimpse at Christian Moore. Zach, you got the first glimpse, which was pretty good. Thomas, you got him a few times. He had good games. But Jack, I think you got the night of the nights for Christian Moore. Take me through Christian Moore's Tuesday night, man.
Yeah, so I was sitting there in the press box thinking, what am I going to write my game story on? Because it is 1-0. The Angels offense has been doing nothing against Garrett Crochet, kind of expected, but still. And then they go to the bullpen, or the Red Sox go to the bullpen in the 8th. And first guy gets out. Christian Moore comes up and delivers a rocket of a home run into left field, ties the game. And I was like, well, there's somewhat of a story. Now I got to pay attention to the 9th. Another quiet 9th inning. And then in the 10th inning, extra innings historically since the Manfred runner came into play haven't been too kind to the Angels. So obviously first pitch single up the middle to give up a run. Reed Devers allowed to, was it Sedane? No, it was Marcelo Meyer. Marcelo Meyer singles, gives the Red Sox a lead. Bottom half of the inning comes up. Christian Moore comes up again and delivers the walk-off home run. It was the second home run of the game, and I think I saw on Twitter he was the first player in baseball history to hit a game-tying home run, a walk-off home run, and drive in all of his team's runs in the same game. So, and he's 22, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew this. He's only 22 years old.
What was he doing a year? So a year before that night on Tuesday, what was he doing? He had some
exactly
event a year ago.
Yeah, exactly 1 year ago on Tuesday, he was in Omaha celebrating his national title with the Tennessee Volunteers. Exactly 1 year later, he's hitting multiple home runs, 1 game tying, 1 walk-off to help a Major League Baseball team win. And one other note, I should have just brought this up before, but he had a great quote, because if you watch the replay of his home run, the walk-off home run, he hits it off the wall in right, which, in my opinion, moved the yellow line back up. This is ridiculous.
I hate it so much.
Yeah. Side note, how many more home runs would Garrett Anderson have in his career if that wall was lowered? He abused that wall. Yeah.
Significantly more.
Yeah. So, anyway, back to the main point. The ball hit low on the wall, just above the yellow line. No one knew if it was a home run or not. So, Christian Moore goes flying into third base. Comes up, slides in head first, comes up, doing the tongue thing, and then looks at the umpire, and you can see his face just go, what?
What?
So we asked him about it after the game, and this is what he said. I didn't believe it. I was kind of scared to get off the base, but the umpire made it pretty serious that it was a home run. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take your word for it and go celebrate with my boys. That's cool with me. So you could definitely tell he still has that Tennessee, college guy in him. So
He's a cool guy, man. He's a cool dude he's from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
I mean,
yes,
obviously played school in Tennessee and everything, and cool that he got to play at Yankee Stadium as he, all that stuff too. I love it. That was a great night. That was a really exciting night for Christian Moore in
and
particular.
sorry, one more
Go ahead.
thing. And this was coming off the game before where he made a couple of really good defensive plays and had a really good at bat. Was it the sac fly that he got the at bat in? It was like an 11 pitch at bat or something like that late in the game that ended up being one of the what was the score of the first game? It was it was a sac fly 9-5, but this was when they were like taking the lead in that eighth inning, I think it was when they scored
Thomas,
4 or 5 runs.
I'm gonna run it backwards. Thomas, you were there that night.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of the Christian Moore experience too on Monday night.
Yeah.
Just kind of take us through that.
Yeah. Well, that's the sac fly. The one thing I noticed with Moore that night was he was making really good contact just all night long. I mean, had a couple lineouts, but ball was just coming off the bat hard. That sac fly. I know sac flies aren't like the most impressive, sexy stat that everyone loves to see, but it was him just coming through in that moment was just really big for the Angels. But I think the moment that really kind of blew me away was the one that led to Alex Cora being ejected that night. So they got Jarren Duran caught in a rundown between second and third. Christian Moore eventually tags him out and immediately turns his back and throws the ball to Luis Rengifo to get Abraham Toro, who was speeding off first base. They turned the double play, and I just feel like in that inning especially, that was, Toro makes it to second base. The Red Sox have a chance to score, and then they might be able to build momentum, and that could be a different ball game for sure. So it was just a really like smart heads up play, and I think that's just kind of where I sat there and I was like, wow, that baseball IQ is like that's a really good play, man. Like that's a little, I haven't seen that out of the Angels in a long time. This especially lately, just really bad defense over the last couple of years. Like I'm gonna be honest, so it was a little bit of a breath of fresh air to see that. Good teams, good plays.
And going even more backwards to Friday night, Zach, you you had a pretty fun Christian Moore experience as well.
Yeah.
Kid's been here for a hot minute, and he's the first one in line to go get Hunter Brown, and then he just decides, for the fun of it, let's go hit a home run too.
Yeah.
So take me through Friday night.
Friday was so we'll start with the brawl where he's the first guy up there, and I wish I when I turned off the microphone I should have asked him what he said, because I loved Hunter Brown's reaction of what the did you just say to me? Like, well, I would have loved to know what the F he actually said to him. But Zach Neto complimented him like, you don't see rookies like that do that. So that was awesome for him to see. I love Christian Moore's response of, I didn't even see what happened because I was sitting behind Mike, but I had to go defend my guy. So it's like he didn't even know what happened. He just knew that he had to get his hands up, and it was like, yeah, that's good.
It felt very Brooklyn boy at that moment, right?
Absolutely. And
yeah,
after the game, or so later on in the game, hits his first career home run. He loves that. Makes a incredible diving, stabbing catch to end the inning. A play which he said he's never done that before in his life, so he thinks he's going to try doing that some more. And the last bit that I took out of it when we were talking to him was, I asked him about how the process was going. It was sort of a thing of like, you just got to learn every day sort of thing. But the thing that I took out of it was that he talks about, you got to have your confidence, you got to have your swag, and you can't ever lose that because that's who you are. And I said, that's the Christian Moore experience. Like I took that as a nugget, and then just watching him play these last 5-6 days, that's who he is. And we talked about when he got called up, was this the right thing to do? Well, if he fails, if he doesn't do this, he's here, man. He's here and he's going to play and he's going to, keep putting out that enthusiasm, which I think is a great thing for this team right now. Cause it seems like he's a real spark plug for what this team is able to do at this point.
I gotta agree, and I was the one that said it, right? I was the one that said I think it's too soon, things like that. Christian has proved me wrong, and I'm happy that he is. Really, really happy that he is. Jack, before we go to you on this for kind of closing thoughts too, Angels used 8 first-round picks in their game on Tuesday, right, Jack? It was Tuesday night. It was your game.
No, it was the night
first-
before.
Monday.
Night before it was Monday. So 8 first-round picks, and respectfully, 2 of those guys came from Jerry Dipoto, which is fine. But the fact that you've got 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, all those first-round picks playing at the same time for the Angels, that is a very important and impressive mark. I know that 2 of those guys came in relief. I don't really care about that. The fact that you were hitting on your first-rounders, getting major leaguers, big deal for me. So, sorry, Jack, I cut you off. Final thoughts on the Christian Moore experience in a good way.
Well, I was also gonna say you forgot one Tony Reagan's draft pick, Mike Trout.
Well, no, that's right. It wasn't. Well, Dipoto would not have been. So I only one Dipoto pick, and then what was it? 2? No, just one Epler. 2 Epler. Because Reed was an Epler.
Yeah. I just know Tony Reagan was Trout. But about Christian Moore, I mean, after Zach was talking about his confidence after the game on Tuesday, someone asked him, did you think you would make this big of an impact on a team this quickly into your call up? And all he said was, I'm going to let my confidence speak. Yeah. And that was it. So it's just the confidence that this kid has. Yeah.
It's awesome. Speaking about first rounds, drafts, we've spent half hour talking about the Trevor Zegras trade, half hour talking about the Angels here. We're going to move around. We're going to talk about the NHL draft. We're going to talk about the MLB draft. Let's start with the NHL draft. Did anyone watch the NBA debacle last night? The NBA draft debacle?
God. Dude,
yeah, what a mess, right?
I probably tuned in around pick 18, 19, and I was falling asleep because that thing was taking forever.
That was a debacle. It was a mess. So
also, why can we get rid of the whole player rights thing? Can we just trade picks like they do in the NFL draft and let them rep the team they're drafted by?
I was going to mention it. Every draft is different from itself. The NHL draft is about as close to the MLB draft as you can get, but the NFL draft is so different. The NBA draft is so different. Zach, you are going to be our entertaining source for the NHL draft this weekend. You were there Friday and Saturday covering with, is it Geisler and
Hazlitt?
Geisler and Hazlitt, right? And we're going to have James Newell on the back side of that too as well.
I will be live at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles for the first ever decentralized NHL draft, which basically means it's exactly like the MLB and NFL ones where teams are working in their war rooms back home. The Ducks will be in Newport Beach, not sure where, but not at Great Park Ice, which was I thought was.
I've heard Mutt Lynch's.
Oh, there you go.
Either way,
they're down at Sharky's.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, we're gonna go off air for our Sharky's conversation.
Oh boy.
Zach, you and I were talking about it the other day when I was talking about Chris. Pat Maroon picked up my tab at Sharky's one night, and that was a night to remember. It was awesome.
Certainly a known Ducks hangout, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, Pat. I owe Pat a lot of money from that night. So, NHL draft, the Anaheim Ducks do pick 10th overall. There were some comments made by Pat Verbeek. Zach, you got those comments about, I think the word, it's a big word. It's upside was the word that the focus key word for this Ducks draft is where we are. We have an opportunity to take an upside gamble. We've got 4 guys here that are going to talk about candidates for this 10th overall pick. Also, what this 10th overall pick could be, what kind of assets you have on it. The thing I did want to say and hold off on completely when we're talking about Trevor Zegras is you guys were hinting at it. They did acquire draft picks for next year. Some sense of what this could be is RFAs, right? Matt Nyes, I think Gabriel Velarde is an RFA. Marco Rossi, I think, is an RFA. But the RFAs that are going to cost you picks next year.
If you
Zegras
sign offer
trade
sheets, you mean? Yeah.
Right. It's all kind of, we're ahead of ourselves on, or I'm ahead of myself on it. But at the same time, could the draft picks have been for that reason, right? To go get an RFA. So I can take a thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't care what it is. But before we talk about the actual draft prospects we're talking about, could that have been a reason? And I have a freeze frame of Jack James just smirking. I don't know what it is. I get these freeze frames of you guys, but I got Jack James smirking right now.
I don't know. I can't tell if they got the picks back for next year because of the RFAs, or if they got the picks back because he just didn't really value Trevor Zegras and was like, I can get him off the team? Okay.
That's the perfect sentence to structure it, Zach. In a sentence or less, can you top that?
Sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think so I'm trying to pull up the number of draft picks they have next year. Because any RFAs, like if they were to sign an RFA, they probably should have done it last year just because they have 9 picks in this upcoming draft, or they had 9 picks. Now they have 10 picks on Friday and Saturday's draft. I think they now have I think they have maybe 7 or 8, or I think 8 or 9 maybe next year now. Yeah, because this hasn't updated with the sorry, they hasn't updated with the Flyers trade yet. So they have another 9 picks next year, which could, like, I think when it comes to finding these impact players that they're looking for, particularly the guys they want, like there's the actual free agent class this year isn't all that deep. There are guys that certainly they will target, but if you really want to make your splash move and make your impact move, maybe an RFA 4 or offer sheet 4 Matthew Nyes is the way to go. Or at the very least, you package it all together for trades, which are a little bit more murky as to who's available and who's not. I mean, if I certainly think you look at the JJ Peterka trade last night and you think, could Pat Verbeek have made that kind of trade? You would have hoped so. So I think RFAs are an option for sure, just because of the amount of draft capital they've now accrued. And if you're really looking forward, because the other thing Pat said was basically that they feel good with where they are right now with who they have on the team and who they have in the system. And they have depth at multiple positions. There are a couple places they want to fill in, but that's why they say that when the specific question I asked was, are you going to, when you're at number 10, are you going to be more interested in a specific fit or best player available? And to Verbeek's credit, he's normally pretty coy with us about some of this stuff, but he came out and said, like, we're going to look for the most upside, which to me says best player available, which also says that there's just so much movement in that top 9 of who's going to be where that you don't know. So all of that to say, I think every draft pick they have is in play because they've built out the system to an incredible degree. They have too many guys in some positions. So put it all in play. Put it all on the table. Again, if he wants to put his money where his mouth is and do these moves, do them. Like I think he's a little unsure about free agency, but more sure that if you want a guy, you can go acquire him via trade. And that will be, because otherwise you're kind of up to the whims of the player, whether they want to sign with you or not. And he sort of alluded to that as well when we talked to him.
So you hinted at a few things. First off, this is not the strongest of draft classes, right? At least perception-wise, yeah. It's not the strongest of draft classes. So that 10th overall pick, if it is not someone they see as a value pick, very easily could be candidates to trade the 10th overall pick, correct?
Yes.
What is the value of that 10th pick? We don't know, right? Lower tier class, we don't know what the value of that pick is going to be. But there are a few guys I want to at least... I think we all have an opinion of who we all believe the Ducks should and will take. I think we're all in fair agreement of who that is.
I think most of the hockey world is in agreement
off
with
script
that one,
a little bit. Thomas, I'm going to start... Yeah, Thomas, I'm going to go to you on this. You mentioned a name to me last night that you really like. that is not our like unanimous guy, which we'll get to the unanimous guy. Jack is going to touch on him and market him to the highest ability. But Thomas, the guy that you had that's a little off cue, who was that?
Yeah, I'm probably where I'm just gonna say I said that I think they should draft Carter Bear, just because the Ducks are in need of a shooter, and if you're gonna trade Zegras because he can't play the wing, then draft a wing.
I love it. I mean, it's off cue, right? It's off cue, and that's what I think you mentioned. It is the NHL draft. Even though you're a few years away, like for some of these guys, maybe not years, but like the immediate impact isn't there the way that it would be for NFL, NHL, or NBA, etc. But to bring in a wing that would be your third line wing, fourth line wing, right? Or you're developing him into that category. I think it's smart. So I really liked your thought process, Thomas. Jack, let's get the obvious one out of the way. We have the obvious one here, Jack. Who you got?
So I've always been banging the Roger McQueen to Anaheim drum for quite some time on this podcast now, and I'm not going to move off of it, especially after Pepper. Excuse me, I'm coming over a cold, I think. So, especially after Pat Verbeek's comments about picking the highest upside, Roger McQueen's biggest selling point was he's probably the highest upside among players in this 5 to 10 range of draft, and he is just the utmost perfect Verbeek player. He's 6'5", 192. He's got size. Like I said, highest upside until he got injured this past year. I didn't notice this until right now when I pulled up his elite prospects page. When you look at player type, it's got 2 items: heavy hitter, power forward. And I think Pat Verbeek just fell off his chair reading that. I cannot imagine him picking anybody else if Roger McQueen is available at 10. That being said, we could also see them trading the pick, or if Roger McQueen goes earlier, I don't know what he does from there. But I just think Roger McQueen is so perfect for the player that Pat Verbeek's looking for, and for the situation that the Ducks are in. Because as Verbeek also said, if you look at the depth that they have already and the prospects they have, it's already up at the NHL level. There's only a couple guys coming more through the system. They can afford to take the highest upside and take that gamble. And I know I pointed this out a couple podcasts ago, but I mean, Roger McQueen at Ducks Disney Day, sitting in Cars Land. What are we doing, people? Make it happen.
And let's not forget that he, at his draft combine interviews, compared himself to Ryan Getzlaf, which instantly put every Ducks observer's ears perked up. They're like, oh, 6'5", cycle-driven, heavy-hitting center that compares himself to Ryan Getzlaf. Get him on a plane right now. It's too perfect. Too perfect.
Jack, there is a guy that you saw a ton of that I didn't see, but I've only read about him. Cullen Potter seems like a very high upside player. Extremely fast skater. The exact opposite of what Pat Verbeek would look for. But if you have the time and the patience to get a player and get him to his upside, because you filled your roster, you filled your system. Great job, Patrick. Cullen Potter seems like a great bet to me as an upside bet. I don't know, Jack. You saw him, Arizona State. What do you think of Cullen Potter?
Yeah, Cullen Potter is. He has shades of Trevor Zegras, where he's kind of the same ilk, where he's not very big and he's very fast. Well, Trevor Zegras isn't very fast, but he's got some speed in his game. But Cullen Potter is one of the best skating forwards in this draft, I believe. I mean, he is just so fast. And I remember watching his first game with ASU. Another thing about Cullen Potter, he didn't turn 18 until over halfway through the season. He was a 17-year-old kid playing first line minutes in the NCAA against, in the NCHC, which is the SEC of college hockey. And he was holding his own. Yep. Because it's true. 7 of the last 9 NCAA titles have gone through the NCHC or something like that. But anyway, back to Cullen Potter. I remember watching the first game that he played. It was at Air Force, and because it was at Air Force, obviously wasn't able to make it. So I'm watching it, and the Air Force commentator goes, Colin Potter's like a mosquito out there. No one can touch him. And I thought that was the
like
perfect.
Such a.
It.
Oh,
It was
that is awesome.
It was perfect because it's true. I mean, he's small, he's elusive, he's a great skater, he's the fastest player on the ice. He's got a lot of skill. He can dangle, he can shoot. His defensive game improved throughout the year. He still obviously has his flaws, but he just turned 18, 4 or 5 months ago. So I like him. He's projected to be a late first round pick, and I think whoever picks him is going to be happy.
Love it. Zach, before we get to you, obviously the Ducks picking at 10, they're not going to get a Michael Misa, Matthew Schaefer. There are guys that could fall. I really like Porter Martone. I think he is the one that would fit very much into Pat Verbeek's style between physicality, playmaking. I think he could be the best player out of this draft. There are guys like Brady Martin, who's very similar to Ryan Poehling in a way. But I think Brady Martin's a little better, obviously, than that. But similar style. He's physical. He's fast. High comp level kind of thing. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I know that the Ducks don't need a right-handed defenseman by any means, but someone like Radim Mertka, I think it's Mertka. I know I'm going to say that wrong, but the Thunderbirds right-handed defenseman, 6'6", total shutdown size, shutdown defender. Maybe you take a chance, right? You talk about upside. There's plenty of upside there. I doubt. I'm playing devil's advocate, right? That's all I'm doing is just playing devil's advocate. But maybe they take a guy like that. Zach, is there a faller in this draft? Because before we get to Zach, Jack, you already said Roger McQueen. Thomas, Roger McQueen, is that primary guy in your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, that probably makes the most sense. Even every mock draft you're gonna see, I feel like consensually everyone in NHL is saying Roger McQueen to the Ducks. Right. They really want the Disney thing to happen with the Disney team.
You know what? I'm literally so confident in Roger McQueen or being traded. Just go follow him on Twitter. I'm gonna follow him on Twitter and Instagram right now. That's how it feels, right? That's how it feels, at least. Yeah. So Zach, obviously, I think you're in agreement too, right?
Yeah, it's
and as my counter, who would be a faller that could be a guy that maybe dethrones McQueen? I don't know. Who's going to be? Who is Jackson Storm here?
Ooh, good reference. There you go. Yeah, Roger McQueen was built in a lab by Pat Verbeek. I'm convinced of it. He's the exact guy he wants. When it comes to fallers, so what I've observed in just taking in all the draft pick prognosticators and prospect writers and all that sort of stuff, there's a consensus like top 4 or 5 players, and then everything after that is sort of a jumble. Like you get guys that are ranked 6th that could be drafted 15th, guys that are ranked 17th that could go 8th. It's completely up to what the teams want to do at that point. So when it comes to fallers, strangely, the guy that seems to be falling in a lot of people's draft estimations is James Higgins, who for a good long while was supposed to be the number 1 guy, kind of slipped down to maybe the number 3 guy, and now I saw something today that had him being picked 8th, which just is kind of crazy to me, because he is such a productive player, especially at the college level, and Team USA, everything else, Boston College guy, but I feel like if he's going to slip, it will only be down to maybe 5. And if he does slip down to 5 where Nashville is, there's talk that Nashville wants Porter Matone. And if Nashville picks him, then maybe Higgins slips a bit further. Again, I don't think James Higgins is a Pat Verbeek type. He's under 6 feet tall, so I think Pat doesn't even have him on a list. But again, it's a guy where skill is undeniable. Do you take that if he's still somehow available at 10? Do you take the flyer on him and get him, or do you get your built in a lab, behemoth that is Roger McQueen? I still think Pat probably leans McQueen if that's the case. But there is, as we said, the draft class is just so odd. There's not any way to like label, oh, this guy's falling. There are rankings, and I'm sure in the broadcast somebody will say, like, oh, this guy's, why hasn't he been picked yet? It's because anybody could be picked at any point outside of the top 5, I think.
That's totally agreeable. Not going to pretend under any circumstance that I am an expert on this. But there are 2 guys I'm looking at for the Ducks pick at 47. No, not 47. That's the Angels pick at 45. Ducks pick at 45. Carter Amico, U.S. development team, 6'6", 235. I'm going to stick to tradition here. Vaclav Nestrasal, USHL with Muskegon, 6'6", 185. Difference is Nestrasal is a right wing or a forward, and Amico is a right shot defender. So, have a feeling Amico is probably not going to be on the board, even though he's a freaking tank.
Just to go back to 10 for a second, I slipped a name. If there is one guy that's still available that might make a decision, it might be Jake O'Brien if he's still available. Because, again, he's another big center, right-handed shot, which is something that we sort of only attribute to defensemen, whether they're right or left. The Ducks, what the problem you see with the Ducks power play a lot of the time is almost all the forwards are lefties, and so you can't set up the one-timers properly. And I think there's a concerted effort to maybe get some more right-handed forwards into the system, which would be both McQueen or Jake O'Brien at the end of it. When it comes to the later picks, honestly, if you're down at 45 or whatever the next pick is, and you see someone that's big, I think that might be just the pick.
If you see someone that's over 6 foot, that's bad for Beak.
Yeah. If you see a 6'2", 3, 4 kid standing there waiting to be picked, that'll be Pat Verbeek's guy for sure.
Carter Amico, baby. Any closing thoughts on the NHL draft here, guys? Obviously, if you're tuning in, follow Zach Kavanaugh on Twitter. He's going to be at the draft himself, at ZACHCAV. Any closing thoughts here for the Ducks' 10th overall pick?
Yeah, I'll try to get Joshua Jackson an interview. Charlie Conway will be announcing the Ducks' first pick, as well as Connor Moreau from the Mighty Ducks movies. So that's a good one.
Thomas said it was fun. I was going to cut you off and say it's dumb. So
we're at a crossroads, bud.
Hey,
yeah, sorry, pal.
Embrace the
It's
Disney.
a podcast of balance.
It's better than Gary Bettman going up there and making the pick, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're going to go into our last subject. We're going to talk MLB Draft. Before we do that, just a word from our friend David J., part of the Mad Friars crew, who covers the Padres farm system. Started up a really cool project called Hop Run Tours. Perfect for any hardcore minor league fans who also enjoy adult beverages such as beer. Multi-day tours of the best minor league stadiums and craft beer breweries. Thank you, breweries. First trip already happened. New England. They're going to do the Great Lakes. They're going to do New York. I believe he is going to do the Cal League coming up here soon. Really cool stuff. You get behind-the-scenes stuff at the minor league parks. You get behind-the-scenes stuff at the breweries. If you are interested, check it out at www.hopruntours.com, or you can find him on Twitter at hopruntours or at DMJ. Let him know you're a listener. He's going to hook you up, get you some nice swag, some fun stuff. On that note, boys, minor league stuff, baseball stuff, Hideo Nomo. That's a great movie too. Liar, liar. Big fan. Let's talk MLB Draft. Angels have the number 2 overall pick. We won't talk about 47 as much as I'd love to. Pick number 47, but number 2. I think we've talked about every show who we think, but now we're only 2 weeks away, right, for the draft. Thought process here on what you guys. I don't care if it's what you want or what you believe will happen. I don't care which one it is, but share something, your thought process on the Angels' number 2 pick. Zach, I think you had at least a mindset on it from last I checked.
Yeah, well, we sort of dial it down to some left-handed pitchers, and as much as I would like it to be Seth Hernandez, it doesn't sound like the Angels want some more immediate impact than a high school player. So I mean, based on your mock draft, right? We got Liam Doyle from Tennessee, and then just over the weekend, the College World Series pitched a gem, Cade Anderson with LSU. That guy's a dog, man. That guy just knows how to win games and throw that baseball. I really liked what I saw from him over the weekend, especially in those big moments, producing, performing. I would like Cade Anderson. I know you're leaning towards Liam Doyle, right?
Well, I mean, I'll share the information I'm going to throw in the mock draft here coming up next week. But I would like personally, I would take Cade Anderson over Liam Doyle personally. But I also agree. So, would you prefer, preference, Zach?
Me.
Would you like Seth Hernandez or would you like Cade Anderson?
I think I personally would like Seth Hernandez a little more, but I also understand the idea that they need somebody to come in quicker and capitalize on what's there right now, because you don't build a farm system in a day. So kind of capitalize on what's working right now, and that's the major league level, which I don't know if you guys saw this. I wanted to open up this reel and watch it, but is it true that, or double check this information, but as of last week, every single Angels minor league team is last place in their league that they're playing in?
Tri-City might not be, but yes.
That's incredible.
Wasn't that a thing last year and the year before that too? I feel like I've seen that before in years past.
This is it's standings wise, and I think OPS wise too. JJ Cooper, Baseball America, is the one that had that.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, no. Tri-City might not be last in their league, but everyone else is.
Sure, but point being, I think putting a high school kid in your minor league system right now and hoping that pans out, I don't think is something that they need to be doing. They need to rebuild that in a more major way. But with this, when you have the number 1-2 pick and this opportunity, get somebody that's going to make an impact, and I think that Cade Anderson is that impact guy for them right now.
Fair enough. Thomas Murray, you and I were talking about this last night. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think personally they should take either Seth Hernandez or Ethan Holiday, two players that are going to be impacts wherever, whenever they get brought up to the major league level. I really would love to see Holiday though with them. Just imagining an infield of Christian Moore, Zach Neto, Nolan Schaunwell, Logan O'Hoppe, and then Holiday playing third base, and especially just because the Angels have been plagued at third base since the days of Troy Glass. It's never worked out. Dallas McPherson, Brendan Wood, Anthony Rendon, the names go on and on.
Why do you want to hurt me?
It's never worked out.
Why do you want to hurt me?
I know that was a deep.
I know
cut.
Somebody needs to make a Angels third baseman jersey the way they have a Cleveland Browns quarterback jersey. It's kind of the same idea.
Yeah, they really are playing.
I'm pulling something up on this, but yeah.
Yeah, I would really like Holiday there. If not, I think either Seth Hernandez or Holiday. And then even if you went through the college route, I would still take Jamie Arnold over Cade Anderson or Liam Doyle. But in my opinion, I think they're going to end up with Liam Doyle. They love their Tennessee players for one. Good strikeout pitcher though, had a high last season of 164. So I mean that would, ultimately make sense, and probably one of the more MLB ready guys, I would say.
On that note, just real quick,
do
you guys know who the lead, since 2010, the WAR leader at third base for the Angels is?
David Freese.
It's in a single season or career?
Is it Escobar?
Since 2010 at third base for the Angels.
Is it Alberto Caspo?
It is. And David Freese is number 2. David Freese is the greatest player to ever live, by the way. Also the best looking man. Also has outstanding musical taste. His favorite band is Smash Mouth. Love David Freese. He's such a cool guy. But yeah, no, Alberto Caspo is the answer to that question, which is tough. End of Meiser as Torres as well. So
Meiser as Torres. Oh boy.
Yeah, Chone Figgins too.
Yeah.
Jack, your thoughts on the Angels' number 2 overall pick here? What would you like to see them do, or what do you think they're gonna do?
Well, I'll start with what I think is gonna. I'll do both. I'll make what I think is going to happen quickly because Zach and Thomas said the same thing. I think it's just going to be Liam Doyle. I don't think they're going to go anywhere else. But I will touch more on Jamie Arnold and Kate Anderson. Jamie Arnold finished with a 2.98 ERA this year, and if you remember correctly, last year he finished with a 2.98 ERA. So consistency out of him. He saw a drop off in strikeouts a little bit. He had a 13.5 K per nine last year, 12.6 this year. But he still doesn't walk guys very much at all. So I just think he's a more polished pitcher and showing that consistency year in and year out. I believe, in my own opinion, that I feel like I value that more than a guy like Jamie Arnold, who, how do I say this in the most respectful way? Like this year was the first year he really saw success at the college level. He had rough patches, putting it together in years past.
You're talking about Liam. You're talking about Liam Doyle. You're saying
Liam Doyle put
Arnold.
I'd say I'd take.
You said Jamie Arnold twice.
Oh, sorry. I meant Doyle, not Arnold.
Yeah, so you would take Arnold because of the success over Doyle, who has new success.
Yes. My apologies. But also note on Kate Anderson, 3.18 ERA, 19 starts. He had 180 strikeouts and 119 innings. That's a lot. And also, I think I said this before. We were talking about this before we started recording. Why not have another Anderson? Angels had Sean Anderson, Ian Anderson, Tim Anderson, Tyler Anderson. They can have a Kate Anderson. And Anderson's a common enough last name. Just draft all Andersons this draft. I'm sure you can find an Anderson at every round of the draft. If you thought the Angels were crazy for the all pitchers draft, get ready for the oops all Andersons draft.
Give me a half a second to process that because I'm gonna look up. I'm going through my draft notebook right now.
You're gonna do a mock
on
now.
How many Andersons I actually?
A mock of all
just
Andersons.
How many Andersons I have. It's how many Andersons I actually have.
I need you to by the end of the week. I need you to put out your Anderson rankings, your top 10 Andersons.
And then
you're gonna be surprised, guys. I just searched through my notebook just now on Andersons. I've got 700 draft reports. Right?
Oh my god.
One Anderson.
Oh wow. Is it Cade?
Sorry. It's Cade.
Dang.
Yeah, there's only one.
I was gonna say if you
if
do the all Andersons,
seems like there's only one answer then, right?
Oh, okay, there you go.
Collecting Andersons like Infinity Stones.
Exactly.
That's another Avengers thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you make a Jackson Storm reference, but you're not clear on the Avengers references? Who are you, Taylor?
What is my favorite sport?
Baseball.
Is auto racing, dude. I'm an auto racing guy. That's what I live for. Cars is my life. Now, Cars 2 sucked.
Cars 2
I won't even acknowledge
Cars
that.
2's
But
bad.
Cars 1 and Cars 3 are great. When you have the number 2 overall pick, you don't get that. That doesn't come along often. And if it does, it's a problem. But you don't get the number 2 overall pick that often. You've got to capitalize on it. You can't do what... And Angels have had a very unique drafting portfolio that's gone on the last few years, and it's worked. I give them credit; it's worked. Quick to the majors, etc. Number 2 overall pick is special to have, and I don't think using it to fill a gap for next season is a way to do it. So, as much as I think Kate Anderson is maybe the best pitcher in this draft on the college side, It's also a weaker draft. That's the big thing. It's a weaker draft. There's not this guy. I just think if you're never gonna. You mentioned something, Zach, is skill doesn't become available this often. The kind of skill you could acquire doesn't come around that often, right? Seth Hernandez, Ethan Holiday. You have a shot at one of them. Doesn't matter. Even if one of them goes first overall, you got a shot at one of them. I personally think these are special talents. And this draft doesn't have a whole lot of special talents. So I would lean with one of those two guys, whichever one is available. I'd take that.
Taylor, before you get off that real quick, because I've seen you say this and I parroted it a little bit here, but what is the Angels' aversion to high school players at this point? Is it simply trying to save people's jobs at the major league level, or is it something
they
beyond
were
that?
filling a lot of depth for a while there. I think quick advancement, guys that it's cost-efficient way to build a roster. Because you don't have to go spend in free agency. You don't have to go spend millions of dollars. You can fill a need with a guy that costs you $1 million. $1 million a year kind of thing, right? Or pretty cheap. So it's a cost-efficient way. I think ownership, I don't know if this is a thing or not, but ownership is happy. I can tell you about that. They're happy that they have these guys that don't cost a dime that are building the core of your organization.
Yeah,
now,
I'm sure Ernie does love
slipping a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, you're just slipping a little bit on upside. They don't have an aversion. They have liked high schoolers in early in the draft. It's Tim McIlvaine and Perry Manassian are the ones that are making the decisions, right? Tim McIlvaine is the amateur scouting director. Perry has his foot in the door, and he was a scout. He was a longtime scout. So it's not like he's just some guy in the room. You can tell a little bit when Tim is making the pick and when Perry's making the pick. You can kind of tell a little bit, right? Last year with Christian Moore, Tim had a long track record with Christian. They also had I've never had the Angels confirm this, but I've had other people confirm this. They had a deal with someone that got picked ahead of that. Christian Moore was maybe their second guy in that pick. It just so happened that a guy that they had maybe a verbal contract with, a verbal initial, because with MLB, it's about the money. It's always about the money in the draft. It's not about how much talent you have, which is a problem. But Christian Moore, I feel like, was a Tim McIlvaine pick to a degree, with Perry's approval, because not only does it quick mover, but also someone you can get in the hands of Ron Washington quick. But you look, Chris Cortez, Ryan Johnson, Ryan Prager, that felt so Perry. It felt very Perry, not Tim. That's the way I look at it. So I don't think it's colliding opinions in the draft room. I don't think it's anything like that. But I feel like Tim focuses on the hit tool and impactability. And for pitchers, you can identify it so fast. If the guy has, if you look at the stuff plus leaders from 2021 to 2024, the Angels took them. They have it's as simple as that. If your stuff is superior, that's going to fit in the model really well. Zach Neto felt like a model pick. It didn't feel like a Tim or a Perry pick, which is surprising. Nolan, I know that Tim loved the draft interview that he had with him and everything like that, but I know that felt very Perry-like. Sam Bachman, so Perry. So much a Perry pick. But that is what it is. And that's what I feel like this year, Liam Doyle feels like it. I think Liam Doyle is going to cost less than Jamie Arnold and Cade Anderson, which makes him more alluring, at least on the draft board. And also with the amount of money and the amount of picks you have with the Angels this year, I feel like that's going to be a small dictator, because that's going to just moves the needle just that much more for the player, right? You take a pay cut, a haircut on the pay cut, you move that much further up. So I think that's a little bit of where it's going to be. Is I would say I still, right now at this moment, believe it's down to two guys. I think it's down to Cade. I think it's down to Liam. I think those are the two guys the Angels are really focusing in on. If I was going to throw a third guy in there, it is a high schooler. It's JoJo Parker. I think JoJo Parker, the Angels, I think, view JoJo Parker, he's a Mississippi shortstop, yes. High school kid. Somewhere in the Southeast. I can't remember if it's Alabama,
Purvis,
Louisiana, or Mississippi, but he's one. Yep. So Mississippi, I think they actually view JoJo Parker ahead of Ethan Holiday. And, if that's how they have it, you can't argue it, right? That's their opinion. That's fine. That's okay. Just because the industry views it differently doesn't mean that the Angels have to live and breathe by the industry. I think JoJo Parker is a little too far off the board to take that right there, too. And I don't think he's, respectfully to all these guys, right? Respect to Liam, respect to Cade, respect to JoJo. I don't think they're worthy of being the second overall pick in the draft. Ethan Holiday, Seth Hernandez, I think they're special. So that's where I would go with it. And that's the way I would perceive is you only have so many chances at doing this and acquiring the talent that is at the top of the draft. I'm taking that shot to do it. I'm taking that shot. And you know what? We'll see what Washington does. But if Washington makes the same decision and they say that Cade Anderson is the best player in this draft and financially and other things among it, hey, good on him. Whatever. But not the way I would handle it. and that's fine. I'm not I'm not paid to do that. So, on that note, guys, we talked Trevor Zegras, we talked Jay Woodcroft, we talked Christian Moore, Yusei Kikuchi. Thomas said the F word, and do we have a swear jar for him? We talked NHL Draft, we talked MLB Draft. Closing thoughts. We're over an hour and a half in. Closing thoughts.
Yeah.
What a week.
I got a few.
Yeah.
I got a few. Taylor, just going back to your draft thing too, I think one thing that's important is, if I'm correct, the Angels won't be eligible for a pick within the top 10 next year, right?
They will not be, but it doesn't really matter. With where they are in the standings compared to everyone else, they would have picked somewhere between 8 and 15 anyways.
Yeah.
Like,
so I feel like
unless they fall apart, it doesn't really matter because of what they've done this year.
So I just kind of feel like with that, you talk about opportunities of picking at number 2. Just those opportunities seem really limited, especially for next year. So, I mean, yeah, get the best player you can, really. And just, one thing I've seen with Liam Doyle is, MLB has him ranked as like the 8th overall prospect in this draft, too. And I feel like that's just such a tough stretch to take.
So I'll go with this on Liam Doyle, and just to close out my thoughts. Liam Doyle has over 70% fastball usage. That's not going to work in professional baseball.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to compare him to Garrett Crochet, which is fine. Garrett Crochet is a good pitcher. Garrett's also like 5 inches taller. And I know that Garrett didn't have the performance that Liam did at Tennessee. They're both Tennessee arms. Garrett's 5 inches taller, also had a way better delivery at the same stage. So you have to get into the projection, right? You have to get into the scouting of it all. It's not just a numbers game on this. But Liam throws 70% fastballs, and it's not. He's got a special arm talent. There's no denying the arm talent of what Liam Doyle is. But if you're going to take arm talent project, you don't take it at number 2. And,
exactly.
And if I'm being real honest with myself, I'm not taking that until mid-first round. Yes, he's special. No denying the arm talent is as good as it can be, but it's a project. And I'm not taking a project at number 2.
Yeah, exactly. And then just one more other thing. I wanted to go back to what you were talking about with Jarren Duran. Just want to say that the day that episode came out from that Red Sox documentary, I just happened to be in Boston around that time. It was really cool just being around the city because I saw a lot of people repping his jersey out there. And then that same week I went to the Red Sox game and it was Jarren Duran bobblehead night, and a lot of people wearing his jersey around, a lot of really high, just cheers, especially when he came up, whenever he made a play. And, a lot of people coming out, making signs, telling them that they love him, telling him he was brave. And I just want to say, I thought that was a really awesome thing to see, especially because we talked about mental health and how it can, affect athletes. And it's a big subject in any sport outside of baseball, football, basketball, hockey. It's just such a big thing. And so I thought that was a really cool experience when I was in Boston, and just shout out to the Red Sox fans for that.
Absolutely. No, I've been trying to mention that for a while, and I don't know why I keep forgetting to mention it, but just special and good on Jarren for expressing it and doing it on a public platform and then using his platform to do it the right way. So, closing thoughts, guys, before we talk weekend plans, etc.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to bring back up that we didn't talk about regarding the Zegras thing was Pat Verbeek's comments. He was asked about the value that Zegras had and all that, and what value he thought that Zegras had, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. He goes, I don't really know. I didn't have a gauge for it because this came about quickly. We hadn't had deep discussions on this for a while. And then maybe an hour later, Danny Briere, the Flyers GM, goes up and says, yeah, we've been talking about this trade for a while. It just didn't line up right until this morning. So not a great look for Pat. And this isn't the first time that he said something that has been contradicted not that far after.
Yeah. Talking to Pat Verbeek is like trying to crack a safe. It's to be honest, he was more open this week than usual. Like I said about particularly the draft pick stuff. But he was also extremely closed up on some other things. So he's difficult to read, and I don't always get a lot out of talking to him. But when he does say something interesting, that's when it catches you, whether it's about draft picks or things like that. So when it comes to, yeah, he's never shopping players, except for all the times that it's been rumored that he's shopping players. So kind of hard to read that part.
Closing thoughts, guys. Let's wrap up. Weekend plans. I actually think I know what all your guys' weekend plans are. We are recording on Thursday. By the time Thomas edits his profanity-laced rants, probably be out Thursday afternoon. So we'll just go Thursday through Sunday. What do you guys got going on? Zach, what do you got going on this weekend? I know you are a busy man.
Yeah, I've got some reservations up in Los Angeles for some draft festivities. But, you know, the thing that's interesting about the draft is, you know, round one, Friday night, prime time, all that sort of stuff. And then the rest of the rounds start at 8 a.m. or whatever. So that'll be done relatively quickly. And it'll be done quick enough that I'm going to go see F1 the movie on Saturday night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, big Formula One guy.
Nice.
Can't wait to see that in IMAX and experience the thrill of the race.
Thomas, you're going to go see a movie too tonight, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go see the new Disney movie Helio. If you guys didn't know, I love the whole thing with aliens. I think it's an interesting thing, and it's fun.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Roswell just to see. I have a friend who is Native American, went out there to go see some family, and he was telling me, he's like, yeah, everyone's like trippy, and I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting. So I'm gonna probably go see that tonight, and then Saturday I'm gonna go to Disneyland. Friday and Sunday I'll be at the Angels game.
Yep, you've got Angels coverage Friday, Saturday. The best alien movie, Paul. Not sure if you saw it.
I've heard of Paul. I haven't seen it.
It's called Paul, and that's my favorite alien movie.
You're not an ET guy?
No, it's Seth Rogen. It's the ET version, but with Seth Rogen. It's also what are the two British guys that do Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead?
Oh shit!
I know
they're great. Another one.
Yeah, it's
add it to the swear jar.
Oh yeah. Hey, I've been talking to Taylor too much. That's why.
Oops.
It's Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Yeah.
Simon Pegg and Nick, not Nick Kroll,
Frost.
Frost. Nick, what's his face?
Frost.
Nick Frost. Love those guys. It's Nick Frost, Simon Pegg, and Seth Rogen as an alien, and Kristen Wiig is in there too. It's pretty good. Yeah, you've got coverage. Jack, you're the only one that doesn't have coverage this weekend. What do you got going on over this weekend? You're in Oxnard? No, Camarillo.
Camarillo. I am leaving Friday for Camarillo. I got a wedding to go to on Saturday, and then I come back on Sunday. So that'll be fun. Other than that, nothing else.
Keep the groom grounded, man. Make sure he doesn't get any wet feet. That's a big one.
Yeah. What are you doing this weekend, Taylor?
Tonight, I'm going to go see Zach Top and Dierks Bentley. I'm going to go to a concert tonight, and then I've got a friend in town, so we're going to go fishing and do other things Friday and Sunday. And Saturday, I have Angels coverage. So you'll get Thomas on Friday, me on Saturday, Thomas again on Sunday for Angels coverage, I think. We'll have Adrian Medina out there, too. And then, so something for next weekend. Since you guys are all Star Wars, Avengers, etc. stuff, my super over the top nerd movie stuff thing, Jurassic Park. Obsessive. Big dinosaur guy. Now, they only made 2 movies. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. There's only 2 movies. This is the 3rd one that's coming out now. So
I'm pretty sure they made 6.
Yeah, well, Jurassic Park 3 and all the World movies are those are experiments.
Look,
experimental
I will say that the rest are bad, but I think the first Jurassic World is an extremely fun movie.
I agree.
I like the first Jurassic World.
It's fun.
The other two
Fun's
are
a good word.
The other two are quite poor.
Fun is,
but yeah.
Fun's a good, yeah.
And Jurassic Park 3 is only fun
TV
for the talking
decent.
raptor, but you know.
Yeah, no, it's Lost World is great. Anything that was based on the book is really good.
Supposedly this one is based on more book stuff,
film,
yeah.
Apparently this one has more book stuff, even though it's basically just a form of alien, which is great. So thanks, Ridley Scott. On that note, I think we're done, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up. We're hour 45 into this. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Again, you can follow all of us. Follow our work at thesportingtribune.com. You can follow Zach Kavanaugh on socials at ZachCav, ZachCav. Got to clear my throat. Jack Janes, you can follow him at JackJanes_. Thomas Murray, you can follow at Thomas_L_Murray. You can follow me, Taylor Blake Ward, at Taylor Blake Ward. We'll do our little roll up the ball of paper, throw it at the camera, and that'll do it. Have a great weekend, everybody.